Awesome. So today, guys, man, that coffee break really cleared out the room. I've got about 40 slides. I thought we had like 40 minutes, but I realized earlier this is a 20-minute presentation, so I'm going to talk super fast. So I'm going to give you a quick background about me and why I'm up here talking to you. I'm going to talk about MERGE and kind of what we're doing with products and software and what we're trying to build. I'm going to talk a little bit specifically about EDU. We've had some big EDU things happening at MERGE recently with one of our products. And then kind of thinking a little bit more about MERGE, less as a tech company and more as a consumer products and as a toy company. Share some consumer insights, things we've learned from testing products with our customers. And then I'll just, I guess, drop some final thoughts on you. I had a bunch of jokes too, but we're going to skip jokes. You're going to have to wonder what that slide was all about. So at MERGE, I wear a couple different hats. One of them is I run all of our content strategy, content development, both internally and externally. We have an internal development team, and then I also do a lot of external third-party development with third-party devs building apps around our platforms and products. It's actually not completely accurate. Last year, I was Emerging Technologies Chair at SIGGRAPH. If you guys are SIGGRAPH fans, or if you're not SIGGRAPH fans, you should go this year. It's in Vancouver in August. And then before this, I was running an augmented reality company back in like 2012. And we were doing augmented reality at zoos and aquariums and museums, stuff like that. It was a really cool idea, like way too early. So, but we installed around 9 countries, 30 different zoos, aquariums, museums. So the concept behind MERGE, there's, I guess, the Kool Aid I want you to drink here is two ways we think about the world. The first one is kind of just an obvious thing, kind of who we are. We're a VR AR company focused on the future of play and toys. One of the things we say is toys are the tools kids use for growing up. This is a 3-year-old's backpack who stole a MERGE cube from his classroom. His mom posted that on Twitter, which I thought was funny. So that's just kind of who we are. And then the second thing, this is my flame suit, because I've said this out loud a few times and people throw things at me, so don't throw anything at me. But we kind of believe that kids are really the true adopters of AR, VR tech, not really us. You don't have to leave the room. We can all still play here, but we really believe that we're focused on building products today for 10-year-olds that want to experience AR, VR, but we're also building a brand for those kids when they're old enough to really adopt this technology when it becomes something that we can all access and not, $5,000 wearable headset. So those are kind of 2 ideas around the products we're building and the things we're doing. So just to kind of give you an idea of some of the products, we have a couple mobile VR headsets, mobile VR and AR headsets. You kind of drop a phone in, you can do all kinds of fun stuff there. This is an old motion controller that we actually killed last year. This is the MERGE Cube. We're going to talk about this today a little bit more in depth. This is an augmented reality device that, if you guys saw Ori's keynote yesterday with Jesse Shell talking about, well, you can kind of like tilt it, right? And the idea with this cube is you can actually fully articulate 3D objects. There's about 40-something apps on the store right now for this product. It's $15. But it's also most of the apps now are integrated with ARKit and ARCore, so it kind of allows you to, with ARKit and ARCore, as you know, you can kind of put stuff on planes, but with this you can actually place things in space and stuff like that, so it's kind of cool. This is a product we just announced this year at CES, the MERGE Blaster. The idea is you dock your phone in, there's no electronics, and there's a bunch of buttons on there that are basically simulating screen taps on a phone. And using ARKit, ARCore, Vuforia ground plane stuff, we can actually let you play first-person shooters by like running around a room, ducking, dodging, all that kind of stuff. So really a fun way to play first-person shooters. And then, so those are some of the hardware products. And then this is the Miniverse. This was launched in August of last year. And so this is a curated portal for AR and VR apps for kids. So everything on here is super kid appropriate. Most of the stuff on here is free. There's, I think, a little over 400 apps at this point on there. Most of them are free. We've started putting ones on there that cost a little bit of money, but that we think are really good. There's age ratings, motion ratings, user ratings, pricing, platform availability, all that kind of stuff that you'd expect on a portal. And then you can get things, not just for our products, though, but you can download stuff for Zeiss headsets and Viewmasters, things like that, whatever you want, anything cardboard compatible, and stuff like that too. But then also what we're doing is a lot of the developers on here are actually, last year we announced $1 million development fund, and so a lot of the developers on here are building applications for individual products that we have, so you can go on and go to the Cube section and download a whole bunch of different apps for the Cube. 25% of the 20% of those we've built, and then all the other ones were either built by third parties or partially funded by us. And built by third parties as well. So that's kind of what's happening here. The idea that we're bringing all these consumers with these products that we've created to all these developers who are building cool apps for those products. So this is Oprah wearing a Robin Hood hat. So one of the ways I kind of describe, I think, what we're trying to do, MERGE is really led by a lot of mostly tech people, I would say. And so we come from high-tech backgrounds, and so we really understand the tech. But what we're really trying to do, all the products you just saw are all under $30. So the Cube's 15, the headset's 29, I think. The Blaster's probably going to be about 29, maybe 39, actually. But it's this idea that we're creating this awesome AR, VR tech, and we're sort of giving it to everyone. You get a car, that type of concept. And we're doing it in a way that it's so cheap that we can distribute lots of it out into the world. So kind of the idea here. One of the ideas of this, to sort of help illustrate this, this is kind of an interesting project. So this was at SIGGRAPH 2012. This was something called Magic Pot. And the idea here, to explain this quickly, you're sitting at a desk, and under the table is a green cylinder and a blue tarp with a camera. And then that camera is fed to a monitor on top of the table, so it looks like that thing is kind of on your lap, and you're wearing stereo glasses, too. It's a stereo camera, stereo glasses. Then what you do is you reach your hand, so you see a green cylinder. What you do is you reach your hand under the table, and then you see your hands there, so it kind of feels like it's on your lap. And what you do is you touch the sides of the cylinder. You feel the cylinder, and it feels like a cylinder. You pull your hands out. You close your eyes. You open your eyes again. Now the cylinder looks like a cone. The cylinder is a cone. And so you reach your hands back under there, you touch the cone, feels like a cone, and then you look under the table, and it's actually just a cylinder. And what they've done is they've taken the video feed when you closed your eyes, and they've manipulated it. They squeezed it in post, so it looks like it's now a cone. And when your hands are actually moving across the surface of that thing in that direction through essentially warped video, you think you're touching a cone when you're actually just touching a cylinder. So this is kind of some of the research, I guess, that's behind what we're doing with the MERGE Cube, this idea that you can hold these physical digital objects. We'll call them holograms, and we'll get into the controversy around that in a minute, in your hand. A couple bold statements I'm going to make today. I'm going to say MERGE Cube might be one of the most distributed AR products sold today. We sold over 1 million of them in the first 3 months. We sold over 1 million in the first 3 months, and that was back in August, so you can kind of do the math there. And then in the last 6 months, we've had over 6 million downloads. And so I know ARKit recently announced like 12 million in 6 months across all ARKit apps. But for us to have 6 million on a single product platform in that same time period is, we think, kind of impressive. There's Dr. Evil, 6 Dr. Evils. So kind of moving into EDU, we recently, in the last 3 or 4 months also, EDU has kind of been going nuts for us. So we went to some conference, and I was speaking there about some of the things you can do on the Cube, and all these people came. It was way more than we expected to show up, and it was because I guess one of the keynote speakers actually brought a Cube on stage and was talking about it and explaining it to them. So what ended up happening was this like MERGE Cube buying frenzy, where all these people were stocking their carts and their cars full of these MERGE Cubes, which was really interesting. So they essentially started buying out all the stores. So we really started thinking about, how can we help support this ecosystem? And so when we think about one of the big challenges with AR and VR, and especially with kids, it's really like not only selling them a product, but also teaching them what the product does and explaining to them why they might want this product. And so we saw teachers doing this in classrooms as a perfect way to help us do that. And so in addition to all the warm fuzzies you get from helping EDU as well. So a couple things we did. We built an educators group on Facebook that's educators only, and so this is part of our MERGE page that they can go on to. And we essentially solicit tons of feedback from them, and then we also are we spun up part of our development team to build EDU-specific apps for them. So there's a few of them out right now. One of them that's kind of cool is this object viewer. People can upload zip files, FBXs, OBJs, DAEs, all kinds of stuff. It gives them a 6-digit code. They type it into the app, and then they can see their objects. They're using it to replace 3D printers, not having to buy filament, all that kind of stuff. We do Facebook Live events with influencers every week, which is exciting for them, talking about our products, but also just talking about like tech in general. And it's kind of starting to position MERGE a little bit in the EDU space as being like not just the MERGE Cube people and the MERGE headset people, but also just being like tech thinkers in the EDU space, which is kind of cool. And then it's also all moderated by EDU volunteers, which is nice too. This is a principal's daughter who bought a whole bunch of them. And then another interesting thing that's happening, that's the actual size MERGE Cube on the very top there. And then they're actually like scanning these in, which I guess we haven't announced an official position on that, but they're scanning these in and like making gigantic ones and stuff like that. It's really interesting. On the right side of the screen, you can kind of see what exactly the different things it can do if you're not familiar. So, those are the products, hardware and software that we're building. Thinking MERGE as a tech company. But then as we started distributing those products, we have to really start thinking about MERGE as a consumer products company or MERGE as a toy company. And so we started thinking like, this is great, but who are we selling it to? Or should we sell this to the mom? Should we sell this to the kid? How should we message this product? And ultimately, it was like, well, toy companies have this figured out, right? So we need to start thinking more like that. One of the interesting pieces of research we came across, this was presented at South by Southwest by Alexandra Samuel, the credits there at the bottom. She says, you know, media and technology for families is not just a single cohort of people. There's actually kind of a spectrum, and they fall into these three different categories. So on one side of the spectrum, on the right, we have enablers. This graph actually I think should be reversed, but on one side of the spectrum, we have enablers, and so these are parents who trust their kids to make good decisions with tech. They give them Xboxes, they let them play. Somebody laughed. They let them do whatever they want with tech. On the other side, you have the limiters. Those are the ones that say you get an hour of screen time a day, whether it's TV, phone, iPad, whatever. And then somewhere in the middle, you have these mentors who let their kids use tech, but they kind of like to guide the things they're doing and help them make good decisions around their use of technology. What we ended up finding, right, is that a lot of our products, the Cube, for example, fits perfectly into this mentor category. So, you know, if you're working on toy products, VR, AR products for kids or for families, you know, one thing to really think about here is like where you fit into this and who you should be talking to. So we really started diverting a lot of our messaging to talking directly to those mentors. For example, you might not go tell a limiter, hey, you know, putting a VR headset on your head actually isn't really bad for you at all. It's not a big deal. They don't really care. They're still not going to let their kids use the tech, right? So maybe you don't want to talk to them. But if you tell them, hey, but this thing is educational, but it's also super, super fun, you might start capturing some of those enablers as well. So kind of three segments to think about when you're talking to these people. Some insights about things we've learned directly from research we've done in-house with a lot of families and kids. Kids don't care about AR, VR, MR, XR. They care about experiences, right? No one cares. They really just want to have fun, engaging experiences. I mean, hopefully this isn't super obvious information, but it's kind of like a duh moment, right? No, they're not saying like, hey, I'm going to go to the park and do some AR. They say, I'm going to go play Pokemon Go with my friends, that kind of thing. When we were talking about the MERGE Cube early on, we started testing kids, and we asked them what they were doing, and they said, oh, it's like I'm holding a hologram in my hand. And funny thing, we launched the MERGE Cube the day it became available in stores. We were launching it at SIGGRAPH, and SIGGRAPH is the largest tech conference on computer graphics interaction. And so I'm walking around SIGGRAPH, and I'm telling people that this is like holding a hologram, and you can't believe how many people are upset about that, because it's not what a hologram is, right? But when a kid says, I'm holding a hologram, you have two choices. You say, you can correct and educate them, which costs a lot of money, or you can say, who else wants to hold the hologram? And all the kids run up and want to hold the hologram. So those are kind of some decisions you're going to have to start making. Also, another thing we found, parents, of course, this might be obvious too, parents want shared experiences with their kids, and they're overwhelmingly much more willing to make purchases when things are shared experiences, multiplayer, social, that kind of thing. We tested last year, before we launched the Blaster, we tested over 25 different new AR, VR prototypes that we had built in-house. And without a doubt, everything above the line is multiplayer. And even so much to the point that single-player things that we then enabled to be multiplayer rose above the line if they were below it. So, you know, if you're not building something, if you are building something and it's not social or multiplayer in some sort of way, you should probably rethink that. This should be one of the most important things you're thinking about when you're building new products. Might be obvious. And then the last thing here is kind of kids need to see to believe and see to understand. Again, we're in this hard position right now where we're having to not only sell something, we're also having to educate them on what it does. There's a lot of noise in the marketplace, but you really need to be able to explain exactly what the product does to the people, but without doing it in a way that's like spec overload, right? So just a quick example, you know, we had some stores, our MERGE Cube was in, I think, over 8,000 stores this year. And we had some displays that were highly interactive, video screens explaining the product, all the full display merchandising, all of that. Without question, that product flew off the shelves in those stores. We had other stores that didn't have the interactive displays. They just had the merchandising, the boxes, and all this kind of stuff. Sales are like, okay, fine. And then you have some of the stores that then take everything out of the boxes, the expensive displays that you pay to give them, and they throw them away, and then they stick them on their own shelf somewhere else. And expectedly, sales kind of crawl in those situations. So if you're not doing something to help at the point of sale, then you should be. So just a couple final thoughts, I guess. We might even have time for questions. I did that fast. again, hopefully these things aren't obvious, but building things that bring everyday value and are accessible, we think is key. We don't like to build things at MERGE that nobody can experience. You can build this awesome technology that only 400 people around the world get to use. We try not to do that. And ultimately, it leads to a lot better insight. The insights we've been getting from now having millions of customers and selling millions of applications brings us insight at an incredible scale. I think what we've learned in the last year, 6 months to a year, has probably been more than we've learned in the last 8 years running AR, VR companies. Really understand the market. Today's 10-year-olds are really the future mass market, so you have to understand them. And side note, being a kid once doesn't automatically qualify you as understanding them. I think even as as tech people, we fall into that a lot at MERGE. We want to build things that we think are cool, but we have to make sure that the kids like it too. And so we're always doing lots of testing with these kids to make sure that it's applicable to the way they understand the world. Again, kind of back to the hologram concept. You have to find a balance between re-educating your audience on what you want them to say and what they're already convinced of. And I say ultimately this is a runway discussion. How much money do you have to convince them otherwise? And then I guess the last thing is, stop selling AR, VR, XR, MR technology, right? It's like we're here because we're all here because we know this will be awesome and do amazing things. So sell those things, right? Sell the dream, not the warranty on the mattress. And that's all I got. I'll take some questions now. Ooh, did that in 18 minutes. That was amazing.
All right, a couple questions. We may have some on Slido if you're posting questions. Let's one up here real quick.
Beautiful. Thank you, Jeremy. My name is Lex. I'm a developer in New York. Big fan of your product. And like you mentioned, one of the top AR products sold, right? One of the most in terms of volume, right? And a lot of challenges I could imagine, right? In terms of, you mentioned people counterfeiting them, right? Shipping them and dealing with stores. When you come to a conference like this, what kind of challenges are you guys facing now? Are you looking for what developers, corporate partners? What challenges do you see in the near future? And talk a little bit about how we can help you, because you are literally, from what I've seen in MERGE, a forerunner for AR technology.
Yeah, I mean, we're always looking for development partners. We have, again, we have a development fund where we're encouraging people to build things for the Cube. Also for the Blaster, that's a big effort we're doing right now, is building applications for the Blaster and being able to, the Blaster is really cool. I didn't get a chance to, I had to cut out several of the slides around the Blaster to fit it in, but the idea that you can explore a virtual world in your handheld, is really interesting. So we're building a lot of applications there. Again, interesting thing we learned is like when we gave that to people, everything people started saying was like, it's like VR in your hand. It's handheld VR. It's VR without a headset. All this kind of stuff, which wasn't messaging that we came up with, but it was stuff they were doing. So yeah, I think I've been coming to Austin since it first started, so it's cool to see it grow like this. It's really, we're here for a couple reasons: network with old friends and developers, and then also just share some knowledge. So,
time for one more before we call it a wrap.
I have a few cubes. If anybody wants to chat afterwards, I can give you some cubes.
Anyone else in the audience?
Yeah. Cool. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Jeremy. Thanks.